exactly is Burry saying here?
Yeah, so his statements were kind of sensationalized a little bit in the media. He's not out here calling for a huge short. He's not out there shorting passive funds and things like he did in the mortgage crisis, before the mortgage crisis. What he's saying is all the money is going to large cap beta and other things are being left behind. And honestly, we kind of agree with him. My colleague Eric Bartuno's coined this term, what he's calling the beta vortex. And what we're seeing is all the money is going to large cap beta. In the index funds, all the money is going to large cap beta. Even in smart beta, we're seeing that the most watered down or highest beta products are getting the most money. Then you look at active mutual funds, they're hugging their benchmarks tighter. They're not as active as they once were. And even in hedge funds, we're seeing higher correlations to beta. So we're seeing this across the board and all over the asset management industry. And we do understand a little bit of where he's coming from.
So as opposed to, not shorting passive, how would you follow his advice in the ETF world?
Yeah, so he's kind of talking his book here, right? So he's saying he gives an example of four companies that he's investing in. He's going this activist investor lifestyle. And we kind of see where it makes sense, right? So if you're going to go and be an activist investor, it kind of makes a little more sense in the small cap type space versus the large cap space. And if you're going to do it in ETFs, he's going for the small cap value. So if you want to go for a small cap value, we have VBR from Vanguard is one example. If you want to go for the real value factor, there's a few ETFs out there that are real strong into the value factor. DVP is deep value. CHEP, which is a market neutral value, which will go long the value ones and short the growth ones. And then you can also go small cap international. It's another way to play kind of things that he's looking for. These things that are kind of falling outside of this beta vortex, as we call it.
So we have the tickers for the ETFs up there, and we just showed a list of stocks. I presume these are individual stocks outside the so-called passive bubble.
Yeah, so if you really believe there's a passive bubble and you don't want to invest in things that are owned by passive funds, the two stocks that come most to mind are Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. They're virtually 0% owned by passive funds. Other examples, I looked at a few that were over $1 billion. Uber, Viacom, Spotify. But the reason that they're not passively owned is there's usually a good reason for it. So for example, Uber in this case, it just IPO'd. A lot of indices have like a set time range before they can invest or add them to the index. Other ones have other reasons, and sometimes they're bad reasons. There's a reason they're not owned by passive. So largely speaking, the ones that aren't owned by passive tend to perform poorly, but there are some diamonds in the rough that we've seen historically that just get left behind, and you can catch them.
What about Fannie Freddie? Why are they not passively owned?
We don't really know, mostly because they're government-sponsored entities, and there's different rules and different indices, and a lot of things happened back in 2008, and they just aren't owned at all.